Imagine if every one of us held up a mirror to our lives and had to answer one simple question. What truth are you avoiding? Marinate on that for a minute. It's that one thing that's been gnawing at you that needs to change, or that whisper, that constant whisper. What's it telling you to do? What if I told you the biggest barrier to your self-growth is not your talent or your resources or your opportunities, it's your inability to face your own truths? Today, I want to talk to you about that idea that our personal growth is directly proportional to the amount of truth you can tell yourself, right? Think about that for a little bit. Think about what that little voice on your shoulder keeps telling you to do. Why is that voice there? What does it say when you're quiet and still? If this is uncomfortable for you, that is not a bad thing. That's normal. Most of us human beings feel that little bit of discord when you got to think about, what am I not doing that I should be doing, right? What is that voice saying? Why do you feel comfortable? The true question is, why haven't you acted on it yet? Is it a fear? Very normal. Is it a fear of failure? Maybe it's a fear of success. Maybe it's the fear of the unknown. That's a terrifying fear. What I don't know can terrify anybody into doing something they don't want to do, or maybe not do something they should do. Let me give you a few examples, real life examples. The first person I'm going to speak about is a friend. I'm going to call her Janet for today. Janet and her husband, they met in college. It was love at first sight, happily ever after, sunshine and rainbows and all that, until it wasn't. As soon as they graduated, he had a great high-powered job. She didn't have to work at all. They had some kids real quickly. She never worked. She has never worked a day in her life. She self-admits that this relationship took a little bit of a turn to the south gradually. Nothing major, nothing, right instantly. It started out as maybe a few passive-aggressive comments. And then it turned into some more direct verbal abuse. You are not doing this. You are not worthy of this. And it made her feel awful. She admits that it did turn physical. And she dealt with that for years. She self-admitted that her fear was what she would do without him was stronger than what he would do when he got home. Until she finally had enough. She faced her fear of the unknown and left him. And now is living happily ever after, I might add. The next example I'm going to give is a little more mild in flavor. My friend Tim. He is an engineer, was an engineer, I guess still is an engineer. Worked for an oil and gas company for several years. Had a great salary. He told me at one point in time he was making $180,000 a year and had a 25% annual bonus. And he got that every single year. He would also tell you that I hated what I do. I don't like the company I work for. I can't stand the man. And I want to start my own business. It's pretty dang hard to walk away from that kind of income, am I right? The funny thing about Tim is he wanted to become a real estate agent. And I laugh because you don't get paid a salary as a real estate agent. You don't get paid until the deal closes. Tim did make that leap. He did start his own real estate company. He told me that it was 9 months before he had his first transaction. And that transaction paid him a total of $1,500. A little bit different than the salary and the bonus that he was used to. I'm very happy to say Tim is killing it now. He's got a team working for him. He's making some money and he's doing all right. But he had to face that fear that I had to walk away from something I'm very comfortable. The third example I'm going to give is a personal story. It's not just personal because it's about me. It's a very personal relationship a lot of people have with this particular thing. And I have found that it is a very sensitive subject for a lot of people, which I don't really understand, but I digress. The last few years, I have had a conversation with myself about my relationship with alcohol. I know you've all heard me talk about my physical health and the importance of being healthy. I have gotten to the point where it makes me physically ill to drink anything. 2 beers and I'm throwing up and I've got fevers and shakes and chills, and that is not fun at all. But I have identified with that for so many years as a bartender, as a musician, as the life of the party, right? That's been me. So I had to grapple with this idea that is no longer who I am. That is not my identity. That is not my truth. I needed to have that conversation with myself for a few years before I was comfortable enough drinking that truth. I will say that on January 31st, I had my favorite beer sitting in the fridge, Founder's Breakfast Stout, cracked that open, poured it in my glass, and I went on the back patio, which is my center of the universe, and I had a very emotional and spiritual, enlightening, I would almost say, experience. It was wonderful. It was exhausting. It was all of those feelings in between, all at the same time. I had a celebration with myself, had a celebration with God, with the universe that's in me. Namaste. And I cried tears of joy and tears of sadness in the fact that I'm closing a chapter. This is the end. But I'm also starting a new chapter. This is the beginning. When something ends, there's always a beginning, right? The end of that life is now the beginning of this life. It was a very hard pill for me to swallow. And it's something I haven't really talked about to very many people because most people just don't understand. They just don't. It is what it is. What's holding you back from acting on your truth? Is it your fear? Is it your shame? Or is it just wanting to ignore it? It's easier to ignore what we don't want to face than it is to hit it head on, am I right? But the truth about the truth is that the longer you avoid it, the more it controls you. It really does. It controls you. But when you face it head on, you get to choose your own path. Rather than walking down a path you feel like you have no control over. Has anybody ever felt that? You're going about your day-to-day life and you have no control over it. You do. You really do have control over it. You have the right to do what you need to do for you. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. It's one of my favorite things to say. No one is going to do it for you. Nobody's coming to rescue you. Nobody's going to fix it for you. Nobody's going to take the problem off your plate. If you want something done about it, you are going to have to do it. But nobody has to know that's a problem either. I encourage each of you to reflect on that one thing that keeps gnawing at you. And I encourage you to ask yourself, what's the best that could happen? And think on that. What is the best thing that could happen? Now think about what's the worst that can happen. Quite literally, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen if I face my truth and I go about this? And here's the reality, guys. Neither one of those are going to happen. Everything that's going to happen is going to be in the middle of that. Marinate on that for a minute. Growth doesn't come from staying where you feel safe. Growth comes from facing your fear and hitting it head on because you know deep down inside that's what you need to do to get to the next level. Gary Keller has always said that your success and everything you dream of is on the other side of your fear. So face your fear. Remember, your growth is directly proportional to the amount of truth you are willing to tell yourself. I wrote this down, and I encourage you to write it down too. It struck me well. And it was like one of those things that just hits you, right? We swallow greedily any lie that flatters us, but we sip only little by little at a truth we find bitter. What's the bitter truth you're sipping on? Imagine where you would be in a year if you faced your truth, if you gulped that drink. The cup is in your hands.